This video is about Francisco Goya. Now, Goya was a Spanish painter who became court painter to the Bourbon royal family in Spain. So he was born in 1746 and he died in 1828. Now, what I'm going to do is resolve the mystery about Goya's work and about his black paintings, and how this is connected to Freemasonry and its worship of the occult. And so Goya was friends with many Freemasons, and these were called ilustrados. So they were like the enlightened ones, and many of them were connected to banking, and they brought French ideas into Spain, and these ideas triggered the French Revolution. But in Spain itself, the first Masonic lodge was opened in 1728. So while Spain was supposed to be this country which had this Inquisition and was this repressive Catholic state, you actually had a Freemasonic lodge in Spain. And Freemasonry in Spain was introduced by the Bourbon monarchy. Now, later on in France, the Bourbon king would have his head chopped off. Now, Goya attended seances, and in his work there are lots of occult images of witchcraft, and this is what I'm going to solve in this video. And so let's look at this first image, and this first image is of a politician called Gaspar de Jovellanos, and he was the Spanish Prime Minister. And in this portrait you can see Masonic symbols like Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and the occult. So that's one of the main symbols in Freemasonry. Now, he was a Freemason, and he brought these French ideas into Spain, and he tried to reform the Spanish economy. And these figures were also connected to the Bank of Spain. Okay, so in this portrait we have this Baphomet head, and it is not there by chance. So you have a head of a Baphomet, and Goya was famous for painting scenes of witchcraft and doing etchings about witchcraft. And the usual art historical analysis, oh, it's just the Enlightenment mocking the occult. That is not the case. The true case is that the Enlightenment was based on the occult, and behind the scenes they were doing these occult rituals, and this is what Goya exposed in his paintings. And so you have here the Baphomet head. Here you have a painting by Goya called The Witch's Sabbath, where you have witches sacrificing young babies to the Baphomet. Now, these paintings are not just joke paintings, because these paintings were sold to people like Jovellanos, these elite Enlightenment thinkers in Spain. And it's because behind the scenes they were doing these kind of rituals, as they are doing today. And in this image we have a man who is tormented by demons now, and it's called The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters, and it has a double meaning. So is it that without reason there are monsters, or that reason itself, if you look into reason itself, it creates monsters? And so his etchings have this double meaning, like the tarot cards, and you can see here he's haunted by demonic figures, and the pose is very similar to this image of Jovellanos. So now we will look at Goya's black paintings, and we'll see how one of the main images in the black paintings is a Baphomet, and it relates to two previous paintings, as I showed you here, this one and this one with the Baphomet head here, showing you it's not by chance. And this is the Witch's Sabbath, and what this is actually a black mass. And so behind the scenes these Enlightenment figures were performing rituals like the Black Mass, and this is what Goya shows us. Now this painting was part of Goya's black paintings, so he painted them in secret, and it shows you that Goya was actually very into the occult. Now, some of his etchings are so specialized with knowledge in the occult that he must have got help by a specialist in occult knowledge, because some of his references are so obscure. So it shows you the detail he went to in creating those etchings. So here you have the Black Mass, and he painted this in his house in secret. So this was later on in his life, and it is these paintings which hold the secret, which Goya held inside, that behind the scenes these so-called figures of the Enlightenment were performing satanic rituals. And this is another painting by Goya, and this is of the god Saturn, and of course Saturn is one of the main Masonic deities, and he is the deity of the underworld. So in Etruscan, where the first mention of Saturn comes from, he's actually a god of the underworld. And Goya's black paintings are himself, is an imagining of himself within the underworld, and that is what his black paintings are about. And you have here Saturn, the god of the underworld. Now this figure had an erect penis originally, and they painted it out, and he is actually eating one of his own children. One of his own children. So he is the consumer of the young. So he's Father Time. He kills generation after generation. So it's about the sacrifice to this god Saturn. And remember that Saturn in Christian mythology is connected to Satan, and he is the Lord of the Rings, originally the Lord of the Underworld. You see, and these are Goya's black paintings, and they are scenes from the underworld. That is what the paintings are about, and this is what nobody else has solved. And there you have his etching there. And he was court painter of the Spanish royal family, who actually came from France. They were Bourbons, and they introduced Freemasonry into Spain. Now, one of their cousin was, his head was chopped off during the French Revolution, and then Napoleon came to power. Now, Napoleon was a Masonic puppet funded by the Rothschilds, and he conquered Spain because this family let Napoleon into Spain. And then Napoleon deposed this royal family and then imposed his brother called Joseph Bonaparte. Now, Joseph Bonaparte was a known Freemason. And one of the things Joseph Bonaparte did was he tried to establish the stock exchange. So you can see how the French Revolution and then Napoleon was funded by banking families like the Rothschilds to kind of impose their financial order on Europe. So it was like a great reset, where they wanted to change how Europe was governed. And it was Napoleon Bonaparte that established the first central bank in France. And then after Waterloo, the Rothschilds got the major stake in the Bank of England. And so here you have the royal family, which were then deposed. And this is the king's wife, Maria Luisa, and she was having an affair with the Spanish prime minister called Manuel Godoy. And after they were deposed, Manuel Godoy lived in exile in France because he was also a Freemason. And so here you have Goya, and I hope I've explained some of the enigmas behind his work. And of course, Goya's skull is missing, and this is very similar to the missing skull of Geronimo. So the Skull and Bones Secret Society has Geronimo's skull, and Goya's skull is missing. And Goya's skull is in a lodge because Goya, in his paintings, in his black paintings, revealed the secrets of Freemasonry and its occult nature. And here we have the Black Mass, and as you see, Goya's painting, The Witch's Sabbath, always comes up when you search the Black Mass. So that is the secret behind Goya's work, is that he was a Freemason, and he saw the secrets of Freemasonry, and he painted them, and he exposed aspects of what they did, and he did it in private, and these paintings were only then revealed after his death. Thank you.